Hello, I'm Jerry Shadbach. I pastor the Lighthouse Baptist Church, and I'm your brain masseur. I'm going to read something to you from Galatians. It says in Galatians 6, verse number 9, "And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not." If we faint not. Now, that's a good promise, but there's a condition to it. We have got to maintain our diligence. We must maintain our vigilance, and we must continue pursuing our objectives. We can't faint. We can't back off or get weak. This is not the time to go weak in the knees and start faltering, nor is it the time to grab your hammock, go in the backyard, and take a siesta. All who enjoy the brain massage show know that I am not a great fan of the Donald. And my reasons are not in any way related to those that are motivating the establishment aristos, the gopers. You know what a goper is, right? It's taken from the GOP, of course, and the analogy is a gopher that lives on the roots of other living things at the grassroots. And so they depend on the grassroots to support them, but they're really feeding on us. So I don't have a lot of respect for what I call the gopers. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that the MSM, so-called mainstream media, aka Marxist socialist media, or my wife's favorite is aka mostly stupid media, that they're coming off with several stories right now that could easily be taken by moi and all of my listeners as a total vindication of all of those concerns I expressed regarding Trump coming into the election. So you might be expecting the brain masseur to pause in his crow eating and do some crowing. Har har. Yeah, I said that Donald could not beat Hillary, but he did. And I'm greatly relieved that he did. I'm greatly relieved we didn't end up with the wildebeest. So, crunching down some crow, you might even see a crow feather sticking out of my mouth. Yeah, I said dealing Donald would probably go into deal-making mode if he was elected, and then pivot left in order to compromise and make his deals, because that's the way he's done in his business. So, no, that has not materialized, right? We haven't seen him do that. So, all right, another bite of crow. First, of course, I should mention that I also said I hoped to be wrong, and I said that he could not win unless God intervened, and said let's hope he gets surrounded by strong conservatives who will keep him honest, keep him true to his promises, and that we gave him a Congress that would support him and his agenda, which that's what's happened. He's surrounded by good, strong conservative voices, and we've got a Congress that's at least conservatively inclined, we should say. But anyway, now the MSM comes out with story after story, again, almost perfectly vindicating all those concerns I expressed to you about Trump as we came into the election. But the MSM really can't be trusted now, can they? Right? I mean, I don't follow a story just because it happens to support some prediction I made or something that I said. I follow a story if I believe it is true. And I don't believe the MSM stories concerning Trump right now are true. The things that we're hearing them say about Trump are not coming from Trump. They're not coming from anything he has said, nor are they coming from anything anybody really close to him has said. So here they are doing all that they can to explain away the Trump victory. Putin did it. Now that's a neat idea, don't you think? That Russian Putin, Rasputin? No. Russian propaganda effort helped spread fake news during election, experts say, quote unquote. And that from the very trustworthy Washington Post, euphemistically called WAPO. And that story is trending at the top of their most read stories. So for a WAPO article, that would mean maybe 10,000 people read it. Russia put out fake news. It's unbelievable to me. That's the MSM speciality. That's what they do best. What they resent competition. It's a long tradition with the MSM, with deep roots into the effort to transform America. For example, one of the New York Times reporters, a fellow by the name of Walter Durante, helped cover up Stalin's forced starvation of 1.5 million Ukrainians back in 32 and 33. You know, I guess you got to help or protect those FDR buds, right? It was for a good cause, of course. You understand that Durante's fake news helped sell communism to impressionable people all around the world, and really it changed the course of history. So while Stalin was committing genocide against the Ukrainian people, FDR was working to get his murdering friend accepted in the international community, recognized Stalin's Russia, got him inducted into the League of Nations. What do you think about that? Here's a man, FDR knew about this. He knew that his policies were effectively generating famine throughout Ukraine. And really, you know what that was about? That was because Stalin was angry at the Ukrainians because they refused, or they resisted being forced into his collectivization programs for the farmers. That's why he did that. And about 1.5 million people were starved to death by that man, while FDR, our president at that time, was shaking his hand, patting him on the back, calling him friend, and making deals with him for their grain. And then you got CNN with their massive cover-up of Hussein's atrocities in Iraq leading up to the war. Do you remember that? I do. And interestingly, do they deny that they covered up factual stories of Hussein brutally murdering thousands of Iraqis? No. You know how they explain it? They say, well, it was necessary for us to do that in order to have access to Saddam Hussein. What good is access to a dictator if you can't tell the truth about him? In other words, if you report what the dictator monsters want you to report, if you become their lackey, if you do their bidding and serve their interests and purpose, well then yeah, you're welcome to come on in. And unbelievable. And as for fake news stories, what about New York Magazine's story that launched that movie Saturday Night Fever? Yeah, the author presented that story to the New York Magazine as a true story, and then later on admitted that he made the whole thing up. The fake news story by the Washington Post, remember this one, about an 8-year-old heroin addict. Yeah, put together by someone named Janet Cook. Made America look pretty bad. It put out put a real bad taste in everybody's mouth for capitalist societies. That was its spin. And so, of course, it had to be awarded the Pulitzer Prize. Yeah. And by the way, that Durante guy, he got the Pulitzer Prize too. It turns out the whole thing was a lie. A total fabrication. Do you remember when Dateline NBC rigged a truck to explode to support a story they wanted to say, that they wanted to put out there about GMC? A lie. A fake story. They staged the crash. Of course, when they got caught, they said they deeply regretted lying. And then they said, this is really interesting, that they've established a new policy. And their new policy now will be not to lie anymore. Isn't that amazing? But hey, none of this is about tampering with an election, right? So that's different. In that case, it doesn't really matter. What about Rathergate? I wonder how many of you remember Rathergate. Rather tried to use a story he knew to be false about G.W. Bush in order to tamper with the election. That was the purpose, that was the point. They falsified documents, fabricated a story that was a total lie in order to embarrass G.W. and throw the election against him. That was what they were trying to do. But like the infamous Watergate, Rathergate's real story was the effort they put forward to cover it up. I mean, the whole network and everybody, it just went all out trying to hide the truth about this. I mean, they were insane trying to cover this up. And one of the most famous things that come out of that debacle was this from Rather and his team. The story was fake but accurate. The story was fake but accurate. The story was a lie but true. Then the effort on the part of the MSM to disparage the Tea Party movement. You remember that? It's now legendary. I mean, the lies, the manufactured stories to support a specific bias or to promote a specific outcome in an election reach new levels. And one of many examples, the MSNBC reporter announced, quote, "White people are showing up with guns," end quote. Oh no. And they show a picture of a man with a gun. It was supposed to prove this. And everybody was talking back and forth about how the white people are angry about a black man being president, and white people are showing up with guns. Then it turned out that the fellow that they had in the picture holding a gun was a black man. And besides that, Barack, would not have become president if it had not been for a whole lot of white folk voting for him. Remember the edited 911 call of George Zimmerman? Look, we can go on and on with this. Lies, lies, lies. That's what we have come to expect from mainstream media. And now they're up in arms about what they say are the manufactured stories showing up in conservative alternate media. Unbelievable. Of course, I don't approve of that at all. But it's just, we got the kettle calling the pot black here, Rolling Stone rape hoax, remember that one? It goes on and on and on. Then the fake news about the fake news. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. The story about a professor who created this authoritative list of fake news websites was itself a fake news story. It didn't happen. Wasn't even true. It's incredible. The MSM have led the way in manufactured news and manipulating perception to promote an agenda. They're whining about Russia gaming them. Getting the best of them at their own game. A game, by the way, that they learned from Russia. All the way back to Durante, covering Stalin and covering up his atrocities. The MSM learned this from the Russian propagandist as far back as Stalin. Okay, I think we've learned not to take the MSM seriously, at least not any more seriously than we might take, how about the Inquirer? With all their interesting stories about Elvis sightings, and you get the idea. And my point, don't let the MSM fool you or fool with you. It will seem odd to some, perhaps, that the brain masseur is not jumping all over these stories coming out alleging that Trump is reneging on all his talk about justice by backing off of any commitment to pursue the prosecution of Hillary, and these stories about him reneging and backing off of his commitment to move forward with the plan to at least temporarily put a ban on all Muslim immigration until we can vet them thoroughly and all that kind of stuff. And many other things are coming out like that, trying to say that Trump is really not going to do what he said he was going to do. But friend, the first thing I want you to remember is this. A story isn't true just because it supports something you think. Whether or not a story is true is determined by, whether or not it's true. I don't believe the story's coming out from the MSM because I don't trust the MSM. It's really as simple as that. Let me give you a little bit of advice here. But first I want to say I'm hoping for better from Trump than I anticipated or expected. I am hoping he will truly be the non-politician president. That'd be great. Trump made a lot of great promises. God help him and surround him with the help that he needs and give him the support that he needs to follow through in keeping those promises. That would be awesome. But let me tell you something. Until you hear it from Trump's mouth with your own ears, don't believe it. Because the MSM, they're a pack of liars. So watch and pray, my friends, until you see Trump do something or hear it from his own mouth with your own ears. Don't believe it. We shall prevail if we faint not. watch and pray.